hopefully now we have a good idea of what's happening here in terms of the flow and this design, right? Again, it's really not so complicated. When you pull back the technologies, you strip away the idea of all the input and outputs and dynamic variables that are changing and getting API requests, mapping out the data. If you strip all that away, all this really is just a flow chart that basically has a researcher, it's got a brain that interprets the research, and then it routes it to different agents or different employees you can think of that focus in on curating crafted posts, beautiful posts for a company. And that's great. That's all fine and dandy, yippity-doo-dah day or whatever, okay? But all of this is adaptable, right? All of this you should consider like, hey, okay, I want you to think above and beyond, not just how this works, but why does this work? And how does this work? Why does this work? And how does this work in the way you want it to work so that you can then take this and build it in your own way? For example, this section here I want you to focus on. You know where we have these tools that basically set up the variables and then pass that information over, if you recall, to our authorization automations, which then post the actual posts to the platform. What if this information could be better? Well, what we could do, or what you could do, for example, in that case, let's get a new wonderful color that we can play with. I like this color. Okay. Well, we could add another layer here, right? And this layer could be a QA, quality assurance. All right? Quality assurance. That Q, nice. That's a beautiful Q. So what I mean by that is you could have some type of system that could monitor the results and say, hey, wait a minute, you know what? This Instagram post could be better. Or we already looked, or wait a minute, we already posted with the research, this happened before. The quality assurance can take a look at the steps and then decide what needs to re-happen, what needs to be fixed. All right, some type of error handling and improvement. But remember, if you want to implement a system like that on top of this pattern that we see here, which is what again? This is a one-way flow, right? We go from here to here to here to here to here. All of that is one way. We can't have a QA system, therefore, if it's one way, that would then be able to say, well, loop it back and push it back. No. Then we're looking at either something that's acyclical or bicyclical in nature, and this is just moving from one step to the next step. So QA couldn't do that. So how would we implement QA? And we're going to take a look at this when we get towards the end of the course. I just want to point it out to you so that you can start thinking. I want you to be thinking not just how to make this, but thinking, how do I actually make this to work for me? Because I want you to build this. I want this to work for you. Whether it's a small project, a portfolio project, whether you want to try it for your own personal, messages or more. And of course, do that and be careful doing that. Make sure that you have your prompting and test it out thoroughly, etc. Again, that's where you could have the manual quality assurance where you can stop it, it doesn't post, but you actually go to a what? Well, you could go technically in that case to Google Sheet. Right? You go to like some type of database. You go to like Google Sheet here that could collect all of the information of the posts, and when it gets updated, then the quality assurance agent can then take a look, go through it, examine what's going on, and then decide to post. It could also alert you. You could take a look at it and then tell the quality agent. But what is that? The key word, what is that key word? The key word that I just said is when. That's the key word. Because when means what? When is the same as a trigger. And if we're creating a one-way chart, or a one-way flow of data, I should say, one-way data flow, then we can't send back modules to reactivate the flow, because then, no, we're breaking this one-way system. So what would we have to do? Well, remember again, all of this is also what? All of this is what we're going to see and learn to know as a scenario. This is all one scenario that gets triggered by a timer. What does that mean? Well, if we extrapolate the concept, if this is all one scenario and we dislocate our final authorization automation from this one scenario, well, then it's incomplete, yes, but also it can be a piece, a module for scenarios, meaning that this when can become, and drum roll please, and hopefully maybe you have an aha moment, but if not, and that's still confusing, let's make this a bit bigger. It's going to make sense after. But this when here actually becomes a second scenario. It's when it becomes a second scenario. And now you could, and you might be thinking, whoa, Clarion. Whoa, Clarion. A second scenario. What on earth are you talking about? Well, we're going to see. If this is confusing, this is all just one scenario. And let me remove some of these squiggles because I know that can look a little bit confusing. But basically, what we're implying here is that everything that happens from the researcher up to the agents making the posts can be one scenario. And if we're going to follow a one-way type of data flow, then the QA is not going to be part of this scenario. The QA is going to be a new trigger that's going to see when we remove these authorization automations and replace them with a Google Sheet. The new trigger is going to check for what? Well, not a timer. It can check for when the Google Sheet gets updated. And that can be a trigger for a new scenario. And that new scenario can then be the quality agent that can then take a look and then check the posts, and then we can have a system that can send them out accordingly from there. I want to stop there. If that's confusing, you can go back and go through it. I don't want you to get too caught up in this, because really all of this is going to become much more clear when we start building. That's how I learn the best. It's not ChatGPT. It's not like a mentor talking to me. And it's not by going through documentation. The way that I learn, that I've always learned the best with technology, is by getting my hands dirty. I really believe in that. That's why I really believe that my courses can have value and are worth a bit of money, because I feel like I put the time to show it step by step. That's just me. That's just what I feel. But enough with the happening. I want to get to the happening. I encourage you to start, as long as you have understand 60, 70% of what I'm saying, and then come back to this halfway through the course, and then back to this at the end of the course, and I believe it'll become perfectly clear. And the reason why, it may sound all painstakingly obvious and incremental, how I've broken things down into just very clear, simple steps, but it's so important, because that's what you can then take to build your own thing and not just be an NPC. Right? That's the goal here, and that's how I learn this stuff. So that's sort of that's exactly how I want to teach it. Okay, guys, I'm gonna stop here. Hopefully you're getting excited, because now in the next lesson we're gonna start building this. Let's build this out. There's so much you can do once you build this and really understand it. It's not just about building your own social media managers or building your own researcher agents, your own anything doer agent, your own thinking agents, your own messaging agents, your own emailing agents. What about blueprints for companies? Do you see the potential here? Where are we standing right now? This is the precipice. This is a very exciting time to learn this stuff. Very exciting time to teach it. I'll see you in the next lesson. See you there. Bye-bye.